Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Tonight, the Bucks suffered a brutal 146 to 125 loss at the hands of the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Bucks surrendered a whopping 146 points to a team that is ranked just 18th in Cleaning the Glass's offensive rating metric. The Spurs were red hot today shooting the basketball as they made 17 of their 29 three-pointers, which equates to 58.6% shooting from beyond the arc. Now, the Bucks certainly could have played better defense than they did. They had a lot of miscommunications in which they were allowing players to get into the lane and set up driving kick three-pointers, but in general, I don't know that there's too much that the Bucks could have done to stop the Spurs team tonight. It just felt like San Antonio played a bit of an immaculate game on the offensive end of the court, and they also shot 60% on two-pointers, and we saw them get some really tough looks in the mid-range to go down. The Bucks struggled on defense, but what are you going to do when 6 players on the opposing team score 19 or more points? Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, DeJounte Murray, Rudy Gay, DeMar DeRozan, and Patty Mills all chipped in at least 19 for the Spurs. And when you get that kind of consistent scoring from multiple options, it's going to be really, really tough to knock off a team. And the Spurs were able to do that tonight, and it led to the Bucks falling to a team that they probably should have been able to beat, especially when you consider that they had 2 days of rest heading into tonight's showdown. Patty Mills in particular really killed the Bucks as he had 20 points and made 6 of his 9 three-pointers. It felt like each of those threes came in a really timely fashion for San Antonio, and every one of them put the Bucks further and further into a gap. He made a couple of them at the end of the first quarter, back when the game was actually fairly close, and that ended up allowing San Antonio to take a 9-point lead at the end of the first period, and from there, the Spurs never really looked back. Fortunately for the Bucks, this was a redeemable performance because of the way they played on offense. Like I said, the defense was pretty bad, but at least they were able to muster a somewhat impressive offensive performance as Milwaukee scored 125 points in this game and got some really solid performances from each of the members of the Milwaukee Big Three. Chris Middleton got off to a great start for the Bucks, putting up 11 points in the first quarter alone. Right from the get-go, Coach Mike Budenholzer drew up a play on the very first play of the game where Middleton came around a screen and popped open for a wide-open shot from beyond the three-point arc. Chris was able to knock that down smoothly, and from there, Middleton was very efficient scoring the basketball as he had 23 points on 10 for 15 shooting. Middleton is the type of player who, when he gets hot and gets in a rhythm, doesn't seem to miss. And tonight was one of those nights for him, and we'll see if he's able to keep that going as we head into the postseason. Giannis Antetokounmpo was also incredibly efficient for the Bucks today, scoring 28 points on 11 for 16 shooting. Giannis didn't do too much ball handling. He wasn't bringing the ball up the court much for Milwaukee, and that's because the Spurs threw the wall defense at him, similar to what we've seen from teams in playoff series of years past. Instead, the Bucks found other ways to get Giannis the ball, and he was frequently used as a screener in pick-and-roll situations with both Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. That led to Giannis getting a lot of easy rim runs, and he threw down a couple pretty huge alley-oop lob dunks. And there were other plays as well where Giannis was used as a screener to great effect. This kind of adjustment and counter to the wall defense is what makes me think Giannis has a really big chance to go off in this postseason and have a bit of a coming out party. He's won 2 MVPs, but people still really doubt him because of his playoff struggles of years past. If he can have this kind of day despite the wall defense being present, I think that gives him a real chance to lead this Bucks team further in the playoffs. Obviously, the defense is going to have to be better than it was tonight, but Giannis playing like this is outstanding, and I hope that he can continue to be utilized in a variety of ways that allow him to be as successful on the offensive end as physically possible. Jrue Holiday also had a nice game for the Bucks, scoring 20 points on 9 for 14 shooting and making 2 of his 5 three-pointers. Jrue also chipped in 6 assists and was frequently the guy throwing the lob passes that both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez were able to throw down. Drew also had it going with his pull-up jumper in today's game, as he was able to knock down a couple three-pointers on that shot, as well as some shots in the mid-range. Holiday has been a consistent source of offense for the Bucks, and it was good to see that continue tonight. Finally, let's talk about someone who's been a bit more inconsistent for Milwaukee, but who has started to play a bit better of late, and that is Donte DiVincenzo. For the third straight game, Donte got it going from the three-point arc, and he made 3 of his 8 three-pointers in tonight's game. That's not outstanding by any stretch, but it's certainly better than the 25% mark that he was shooting at prior to this current 3-game stretch. So to see Donte continue to hit threes is definitely a good sign. And DiVincenzo also made some really solid passing reads in this game, as he finished with 6 assists. That kind of secondary playmaking from the weak side can really help the Bucks offense continue to be fluid and continue to put points on the board, even when guys like Chris, Giannis, and Drew don't have it going in the same way that they did tonight. So a nice game from Donte, and hopefully he can continue to build off of this current streak of hot play that he has been on. Finally, I want to talk about Bobby Portis a little bit. Portis is someone who's been a consistent option off the bench for the Bucks this season, and he's a really solid scorer and a good rebounder for someone who's a bit undersized playing the center position. Unfortunately, that bit of undersized certainly stood out in today's game, as Portis really struggled in his matchup against Drew Eubanks and Jakob Poeltl at the center position. He wasn't able to do much at all on the offensive end and had his shots blocked time and time again by the 2 Spurs big men, and really had a lot of trouble getting anything going on offense. He ended up finishing with a respectable stat line because of a lot of garbage time buckets, but in general, Bobby had a hard time scoring on a Spurs front court that has a huge size advantage on him. The same was true on defense, where Bobby continually had a really difficult time defending the pick and roll, and that led to Jakob Poeltl having a huge game tonight with a double-double, 10 points and 11 rebounds, in addition to 8 assists, as Bobby frequently was not positioned correctly, and that allowed Poeltl to make some really easy passes to teammates for open looks from beyond the three-point line. In general, Portis is someone who has been terrific for the Bucks this season. However, there are questions about him in the playoffs, as he struggles defensively and he is undersized at the center position. I think Bobby's someone who can give the Bucks 12 to 15 minutes a night, but if we're relying on him to do too much more than that, I think that could be a recipe for disaster for the Bucks. So in general, I like Portis, but hopefully his role is limited to where it has been at times this season, and the Bucks aren't as reliant on him as they have been on other occasions. Let me know what you thought of this game against the Spurs in the comments section down below. To sum it all up, from my perspective, the Spurs really just couldn't miss, and that's the primary reason why the Bucks lost this game. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.